then this time, is it okay to talk about the cultural differences between Japan and US? We talked about this before, but I prepared some topics before, so there are still some topics even now. So, well, let's see.
Yes.
I think today is the last time we will speak on this subject. So, anyways, I'll give my opinion first and then ask you what you think about each topic.
Okay.
So, the first topic is about chatting in the store. I think in Japan, when a customer enters a store, a clerk will say, いらっしゃいませ, but most of the time, people just ignore them. Even if a shop clerk says, hi, いらっしゃいませ, customers wouldn't say anything, right?
Yeah.
You've lived in Japan, so I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely.
But in the US, I think you guys will say hi and have a small talk if a shop clerk starts talking to you. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think so. Even if it's not a lot of small talk, you would probably at least just say hi back usually. But yeah, I felt like that's true. Whenever I would walk into a shop in Japan, they'd say "irashaimase," and I would always like kind of feel like I would kind of look at them and at least nod to kind of like acknowledge, which just feels natural to me. But I know for most Japanese people, they'd probably just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
But I think that's because in the US, I'm just speaking from the US perspective, but for us here, usually when you walk into a shop, though, a lot of times they don't say anything. Well, it depends. If it's like a smaller shop and it's kind of like more quiet and it's very noticeable when you walk in, they might say like, "Oh, hello, welcome," or whatever. In which case, yeah, I feel like most people would be like, "Oh, hello, thank you." And they might say, "Take a look around, tell us if you need anything." The shop clerk would say that, right? "Tell us if you need anything, let us know if we can help you find anything." And then, the customer would say, "Oh, okay, thank you." But sometimes, if it's a bigger shop or if they're busy or whatever, you walk in and no one says anything and you just go about your way looking for whatever you need. But I think when people do say it to you, it's more natural to kind of respond and say, "Oh, thank you," or "hello," or whatever. But yeah.
Interesting. Do you think it's weird that Japanese clerks often say いらっしゃいませ, いらっしゃいませ? Everyone says いらっしゃいませ at the same time, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
that's weird?
True. 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 Yeah. Right. Like when you walk in, it's like not just one person, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes if there are more than one, there's like everyone is like
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was weird when I first experienced it because I wasn't used to it yet. And like I
Mhm.
said, I always felt like I had to like say something back to them, like, "Oh, hi," But I mean, looking at it now, I don't think it's weird. I think it's just a cultural difference. I think, Japan is very customer service centric, right? Like they put a lot of emphasis on customer service. So
Yes,
I
I
think
think
it
so.
so I think it makes sense that for every single customer who walks through the door is gonna get greeted.
Yeah. Everyone says いらっしゃいませ when a
Right.
customer enters a store.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of
Probably
like it, but
you liked it.
it's good. Yeah. But yeah, after I got used to it, I liked it. Yeah.
You got used to it. Okay.
Like at first, like I said, at first I thought it was a little weird and surprising. I was like, why are they talking to me and saying every time I walk in? But
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. So let's move on to the next one. The next topic is about appearance. I feel like Japanese sometimes compliment other people's appearance. For example, if your skin is white, people might say, your skin's white. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
肌が
mm-hmm.
白いですね. This is a
Mm.
compliment in Japan, but I think
Right.
in other countries, I think this is kind of discriminatory because people in other countries wouldn't say that kind of thing. Your skin's
Mm.
white.
Yeah, that's a good discussion topic. Here in the US, that we've had a lot of racial issues and racial history,
Mhm,
so people don't comment on each other's skin as much. But
mhm.
sometimes I think like, well, if it's within the same skin tone between the people, right? So like I've had people tell me that I'm really white, that my skin is very white, but those people are also white people. And sometimes we also will tell people that they're very white, but we don't mean it in their skin tone so much as in their behavior, like their cultural behavior, because I think I have to be careful how I say all of this. Well, I think, for example, modern day hip hop and that kind of hip hop culture and stuff was largely a result of like African American culture that came from African American people for the most
Mhm.
part. Um, and I think that has it has come to be thought of as very like cool and
Mhm.
hip hop, it's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So then sometimes, like when people are trying to be cool or when people are kind of the opposite, sometimes we'll say they're very white. Like, for example, like when a white person is trying to dance like hip hop, but it looks very like almost like stiff and it doesn't look like real hip hop, someone might say like, "Oh, you're so white," you know? Uh,
So white.
you're so white. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's more of like a in that situation. But like I said, occasionally people have like said to me, literally talking about my skin tone, like, "Oh, you're so white," but it's usually other white people. I would never say to a black person like, "Oh, you're so black." And I don't think a black person has ever said to me like, "Oh, you're so white," or at least, literally about my skin. So I think that yeah, you have to be more careful about it because it can come off as discriminatory or racist
Mhm.
here in the US. I feel like there's a lot more that could be talked about there, but I'm not sure where else to go with it. Do you have any other questions about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, is it okay for you to say your skin's white to other white people? Because I think is your skin white? I don't know.
Mm, right. Yeah, I think like maybe people that I
Mhm.
know who like my friends and family who I'm close
Mhm.
to. I think then it's okay for me to be like, "Oh, you're so white or you're so pale or whatever."
Mhm.
But nowadays though, people tend to want to be more tan. They want to have a little bit
Ah,
darker skin.
mhm.
So a lot of times it doesn't sound as good when you tell people that their skin is
Ah,
very
okay.
white. Whereas I think in Japan it's the opposite because Japan naturally has some darker skinned people, and a lot of times like that pale skin is more like kind of sought after, like it seems more like beautiful to people in terms of cultural standards.
Yes, I think
But
so.
right, but here in the West, or at least in the US, it's almost the opposite for a lot of people. A lot of people want to have darker skin because a lot of people are
Mhm.
so white. So when you say someone has really white skin, a lot of times it doesn't sound like a compliment to us
Uh,
here in the West if you tell them they have really white skin. Sometimes people will say like, "Oh, you're a ghost."
what does it mean? Yeah,
Right,
ghost.
you're a ghost, yeah.
Yeah, ghost.
And because ghosts, at least in Western culture, are often portrayed as like white, like very white. I don't know if you've ever seen like a Halloween costume, a very stereotypical Halloween costume is just like someone will take a white sheet and just like wear a white sheet over
Uh,
over themselves and like cut out two eye holes and be like, "Oh, I'm a ghost for Halloween." So that's like a stereotypical like ghosts are very white. So sometimes when someone is very white, their friends or family might kind of like make fun of them and be like, "Oh, you're a ghost. Like you're so
I've
white." Or like pretty
never
much
heard of that. Interesting.
I've
Yeah.
been told that by my friends and family sometimes here and there because I'm
Mm,
also pretty white, pretty pale compared to most people in the US, I think.
in Japan, oftentimes girls try to get white skin so they
Right.
avoid getting tan. But like you said earlier, in the US, that's completely the opposite. People try to get a tan,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we even have like we have tanning
Oh,
salons where people will literally go to the tanning salon and just like
mhm.
lie down in front of UV light to like get their skin tan, which nowadays it's been discovered that that's probably not very healthy for you, for your
Oh,
skin to just do that for like hours. I don't know. Maybe people are more health conscious about it now, so it's not as popular, I don't think, but it's definitely still a thing. It's still a thing that people do. And definitely like 10 years ago, it was pretty common, I think.
mhm. I've heard
Mm.
some Japanese people go to a salon to get tan, but I think the number of people who go to that kind of salon is small. And
Right.
generally speaking, like I said earlier, people try to avoid getting tan. Aesthetics are different depending on the country. So I feel like in Japan, people try to get white skin here. Some people think that people with white skin are attractive. Of course, it depends on the person, but
Right.
in most cases, that's true for like Japanese people.
Right. Yeah.
talking about appearance, if your nose is high, then Japanese people might say your nose is high. This is a compliment, but I think this sounds discriminatory in other countries. So what do you think about this?
I guess I'm curious, what does that even mean? Because I think people told me that too when I was in Japan. Does that mean high in what way? Like it comes out further like this? Like I don't even know what that means.
It's definitely a compliment.
Right.
Generally speaking, Japanese people have like flat face.
Right.
Right? So if your nose is high, then I think people think that's cool.
Okay, so like it is like it means that the nose like comes out further from the face.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And people think that's cool. That's why I don't know who said that, but I think that that person thought that your nose is cool.
Yeah. It's funny too because over here sometimes people get made fun of. I mean, not literally, like it's not a big problem, but like sometimes it is the opposite where like sometimes people will say like, "Oh, that person's nose is too big" or whatever, like if their nose comes out too far. So yeah, it's just interesting. I think the other one, I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but the kao ga chisai. Right? Like your face is small. Someone told me that. I was told that sometimes in Japan. And the first time that I ever heard that, I was like, I thought it sounded like an insult. The way they said it, I kind of assumed that it was supposed to be a compliment, but just hearing the words like your face is small, to me that sounds like, if I said that to someone else in the US, they'd be like, what?
That sounds insulting.
Yeah. So that I thought that was so funny too. Like your face is small, and I was just so confused. I was like, what?
Recently Shohei Ohtani is popular, right?
Yeah.
And he's very tall, and then he has a small face. So people often say that he has a small face, and people use it as a compliment, but I think that compliment sounds insulting for non-Japanese people.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have a small face. It sounds like you're trying to like what's the word I'm looking for? Diminish. There's a different word. But belittle. Yeah, it's like you're trying to belittle them, like make them feel small and insignificant. Like your face is small. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Belittle. I've heard of the word. When I was studying for AIKIN grade 1, the word came out.
Yeah.
You said belittle, right?
Belittle, yeah. Just like to make fun of them or make them feel weak or inferior, yeah. But I heard that one a lot though. Your face is small. Kao ga chisai. After I found out that it was a compliment, I was very flattered, of course. But the first time that I heard it, I was very confused. I took it very literally, like my face is small? Like what do you mean?
I think that the compliment is used for tall people. If you have a good figure, then people might say your face is small.
Right, maybe because if you're tall, then it's smaller relative to the rest of your body, right? Compared to the rest of you. That makes sense.
I think you're tall. Maybe.
Taller than most Japanese people.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm 180 centimeters.
You're tall. Yeah, that's why. Okay, so that makes sense. No wonder people have said that your face is small.
Yeah. And then one of my other coworkers, he was shorter. And now that I think about it, people would tell him that his face was big. Not a lot of people, but like our other coworkers who we were all, close friends, like so they could get away with telling him that his face was kao ga dekai. But now that you mention it, he was kind of short. So, yeah.
Kao ga dekai. I hear that sometimes, but I don't think that's a good idea to say that. Yeah, some Japanese people make fun of other people just by looking at other people. I feel that people here make fun of other people's appearance. For example, if you are short, if you have a bald headed, if you are bald, then these people are made fun of.
Yeah. And it looks like we're gonna run out of time, but
yeah.
Thank you. And just again in 2 weeks is good?
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
Cool. All right, thank you, Taku. Have a good 2 weeks.